Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Internal Compass podcast. I am Samuel Chambaud. I am your host, osteopath, and kinesiologist. And on this episode of the podcast, let's talk about relationships and emotions that are linked to relationships. So, you know that this podcast treats all about pain management, but especially how to realign yourself from inside out, just to live a better life. There's a lot of things under the umbrella of pain management, and relationships can be the root of many different pains, as I'm sure you are aware of. I want to start with telling you that actually I've been reading this book. It didn't start with you. The author is Mark Wolin. I highly recommend this book, and actually I'm rooting the subject of this episode in this book. And I've decided to summarize the information, and especially the information that I found very interesting and maybe something to use practically in terms of, okay, what can we take away from this book and how can we use it to make our life a little bit better? So if we talk about relationships, I want to, let's say, use the occasion and the opportunity of this episode to treat about how can we, if we want to, how can we reconnect with people we love? And also, what is that going to give us? And what do we need to pay, if I can use this term, in order to reconnect with people? So let's say if you are in a situation where right now you might be disconnected from either one of your parents, someone close to you in your family, a close friend, or also your partner. So if you are right now, or if you have been disconnected, like let's say you don't talk to each other, you reject the other person, you find it very difficult to try to reconnect with this person no matter how hard you tried, well, you are at the right place. And in this episode, we're going to uncover in pretty much how can we try at least to reconnect with the other person. The first thing I want to say when it comes to, okay, you have now identified that, yeah, Sam, you're right, actually. I have been distant. I have been disconnected from someone that is close to me, whether it was a good friend or your partner, or because yes, you can be in a relationship with someone and still feel disconnected. The first step, or the first thing I want to bring light on, is accepting your own responsibility in the matter. And that is the base of everything, because a relationship is a space where two people share. They share vulnerabilities, they will share time, energy together. And because you are two in the relationship, whatever problem, disconnection that happens in that relationship will never originate only from one person. It might be more from one person than the other, but it will always be including the two people. That means no matter how big the percentage your responsibility is, you still have responsibility in that relationship. So accepting the fact that if you want to reconnect with someone, it is in part, if not the entirety of your responsibility. That doesn't mean that the reason why you got disconnected in the first place is your fault. Fault and responsibility are two different things. It means that right now, if you're in a situation that you are disconnected from someone that has been or is close to you, it is your responsibility, or let's say you have to accept the fact that it is your responsibility, that if you want to reconnect with that person, you will have to, initiate some steps here. And accepting that will not only put you in a position of strength, but also taking you away from this role of victimizing and blaming maybe the other person. Because yes, it is painful. It is very hurting when we think that this other person did this, therefore, it disconnected us, or it made us, break apart. You might be right. It might not be your fault, but if you want to reconnect, it's still part of your responsibility. Now, under this, there are two questions that this is going to raise. The first one, and it's very legitimate, is, okay, let's say you can perceive the fact that, or perceive the parallel reality that, okay, yes, it is in fact my responsibility. The other question is, do you want to reconnect with that person? And that's a complete legitimate question. So let's say that you have been friend with someone for 10 plus years. And recently this person, you haven't felt connected. You started to take your distance, maybe some behaviors that this person has been doing that doesn't fit anymore with your values. It's really legit to ask yourself, do I actually want to be friend with this person? Or if it's a family member, you can't decide if you're going to be that person's brother or sister or son or daughter or parent, but you can also decide, do I want this person in my life? And the answer might be no. And if it's no, then you can close this episode right now and you don't need what I'm about to say. But if your answer is yes, then you want to go further. But I think it's legitimate to ask yourself, do I want this person in my life right now? Maybe this is going to change in the future, but I think it's legitimate that you ask yourself this question first. And then the other question that lies under this responsibility is, am I ready to reconnect with that person? Because the reality is you might not be. One of the first signs that you are not ready to reconnect is that you are very emotional and triggered easily whenever a situation happens that someone is going to mention that person. You start to think about that person and it really brings up severe emotions inside of you. You feel really emotional. You're going to react and you feel like you can't really control yourself. If you feel this way, I reassure you, it is completely normal. But then you have to ask yourself and try to be honest and humble there. Am I really ready? Don't try to play the Buddhist monk, or don't try to, outpace this process. It is okay to feel emotional about someone, especially if that person has been hurting us. And this is kind of the beginning of the separation. If you want to reconnect with that person and you have accepted that you will have to do some steps here to kind of reconnect because you're two in a relationship, are you ready? And if you are not ready, then perhaps you have to focus on those emotions. And if you are ready, then we will address the next steps. But perhaps we can go there. If you're not ready, then your next step is to just sit with the emotions. And those are going to come and go. It's not something that you solve in just like that. You do it one time and then doop, doop, it's done. No. My own personal, and this is not really based on any science, but it is based on my own personal opinion and experience. But having some distance, physical distance, and also communication distance, whatever you want to call it, but actually allowing the separation to happen is going to help because it's going to disconnect you from those emotions in a way that you will become a little bit desensitized. Now, the idea here is not to get rid of those emotions. You want to let them arise. You want to feel them enough so that you can dissociate with them. That's the trick. It's not about pushing them down or pushing them away. It's about allowing them to arise and being eventually able to, take a small distance and say, hey, I'm feeling angry right now. I'm feeling sad, but it doesn't control me. I don't get triggered as much. You can feel sensations in your body without letting them to over control you. That is where we want to go when it comes to emotion, because then those sensations might not be voluntary. They just might arise. But the fact that you can recognize them and kind of create this separation between you and the emotion you feel, this is eventually going to desensitize the connection, the emotional connection you have with someone, and however this person made you feel. And then this is going to help you rewire your brain, because emotions are linked to memories. And this is not my opinion now. This is neuroscience. This is how emotions and memories are created. They are bind to each other. We need emotional reaction in order to remember something. Do you remember everything when you were a kid? No. Do you remember very important and high emotional moments? I bet you do. Think about the first thing that you remember ever. I'm pretty sure it's going to be something charged, heavily charged with emotion, good or bad. That's how the nervous system works, because it wants you to remember the great stuff and also the stuff that really made you angry or sad, because you don't want to repeat those things. All right, so now if you are not ready for this, perhaps it's time for you to work on your emotions. And I do have another episode on how to deal with emotions. So you are welcome to go on my website, www.mynamesamuelarchambault.com, and just go under the podcast tab. Okay, so now you ask yourself, yes, it's my responsibility. You are in fact ready, and you want to reconnect with that person. Okay, so what next? Well, the next thing you have to acknowledge, there's not much to do, there's just a lot to acknowledge, is the fact that whatever you have been rejecting in that other person, so let's say that you are separated from someone, whatever you have been rejecting from that person, it is a part of you that you are also rejecting. I'm going to say that again. Think about right now, the one person that you say, hey, I would like to reconnect with that person. We've been feeling separated. Okay? Think about that person right now. Then think about, why are you separated from that person? Why are you angry at that person, sad? Why are you fearful of that person? Whatever the emotion you have been attaching to that person. And then think about the action that this person took that kind of recreated those emotions. Good? Got it? All right. So from there, those are the reasons you can say that, hey, I have taken my distance because of that in that person. Great. Now, objectively speaking, and just take a moment and try to be honest to yourself. Look at those characteristics. Look at maybe those like weaknesses you have pointed out in the other person. Look at those behaviors you have not been liking in that other person. Can you recognize any of those things in yourself? Maybe it's not necessarily the exact same things, but do they correlate? I'm going to give you a perfect example. Myself, I have rejected one member of my family for a very long time, and the reason behind this was because I think that this other person did not care, basically, about other people, including me, and also was violent to other people around him. So I have rejected this other person because of those reasons. And the reality is, I've noticed that sometimes I can be violent against myself, not physically speaking, but I can be very rigid and I can impose on myself a lot of things. So see there, it's not the same type of violence, but it is still very harsh. And I have seen myself like not caring at all. Let's put it this way, not caring at all and being completely indifferent when really I cared inside. I have done that also myself. So what I have been pointing out in the other person actually were things that were inside of me, especially when it comes to our parents and people that are very close to us, because we tend to connect and bind with people that we share something with. And especially in the case of our parents, we can't deny the fact that they have been providing us with our genes, with who we are. They have been educating us, even if they haven't. They have done it by the absence of education. So to try to completely push that aside would be a big lie to our own faces. So have you been pinpointing this out? Great. Now, an interesting strategy you can use is, now that you have identified those behaviors around what you have been rejecting in the other, which is also things that you might reject to yourself, it's about learning to love yourself. And unfortunately, I don't have a playbook for this, but it's about acknowledging and accepting the fact that we are not only good, we are not only bad, we are somewhere on this spectrum of, we do good things, we do bad things, and sometimes we have behaviors that we don't like because they are not according to our values, but we still do them because we're human beings and we make mistakes. But accepting the fact that we make mistakes is a really good step to start to love ourselves entirely, our entire self, including those parts that we have been rejecting. Being able to accept ourselves fully will also lead us to the final destination, which is seeing the other person like that person is and not like we would like that person to be. Think about your friends. We all have perceptions of our friends, of our family members, of our partners, and we think they are a specific way. And even we would like them to be. We perceive them in a way, but is it really them? We only see part of reality. We see the person that they are in a relationship with us. We see the brother in our brother, but we might not see the entire person, right? Example, I have three brothers. I see them as my brothers, but I see them as a spouse? No, because I'm not their spouse. So I don't see the entire person of who they are. But trying to see them and trying to look at them as, hey, they are more than just what I see. And whatever they do that doesn't fit this reality that I have built around the fact that I think they are this way, it's also them. And no, they're not perfect. And that person is probably not entirely like I think they are, but they are probably more than that and different also than that. When we can accept that person fully, then it will be much easier to again disconnect from those, again, remember those emotions, not disconnect, but maybe take some distance and see those objectively and not let them control us. Eventually, that's where we want to go. I reassure you, this is very hard and this is over a long period of time. And it's normal that it's not linear, meaning sometimes you can start to see that person, hey, I think I can not be emotional with this person and see them how they are. And then 1 week later, you're super angry at them. And then it goes a little bit forward and then back down again. And that's completely normal. It takes time, but the more you can practice this, the better you will be able to see that person how they really are and not necessarily like you would like them to be, or not only in a way that they're the reason why we got disconnected, right? Maybe we only focus on that. And at least, or let's say at last, I want to share with you some tools that can be useful to go along that process. 3 tools I want to share with you. The first one is, especially if you're trying to reconnect with that other person, is to stay rooted in the present. And this is hard because when we will talk to the other person, when we will try to reconnect with the other person, there is going to be a whole bunch of memories, emotions that's going to pop up. And it's very easy to just like let yourself lose control and get completely controlled by those emotions that are going to lead your behaviors. So being able to practice some meditation tools where you're able to breathe in, breathe out, and focus on that breath will allow you to, whatever your system is, if you want to just use your breath, if you want to use a specific image, that all works. But find a way, find a route, find an anchor, something that will bring you back to the moment present and make you okay. I don't have to let my emotions take control, take over. The second one, talking about meditation, it's more about a visualization. See this person. If you want to reconnect with that person, I'm pretty sure that person means something to you and that you at some point have been happy with that person, because or else you would not connect with that person. I'm sure you can think about one little moment, one little way to love that person and that person loved you back. And then visualize this. Play that movie in your head. Sit down or lay down, close your eyes, breathe a little bit, and imagine, play that movie and kind of try to flood yourself with those movies, those images of you and that other person being in a nice relationship. Go back to those memories where you were actually connected. I'm sure you can do this. I have done this with situation that looks completely impossible and yet I believe it is possible. So that's my second tool. And my last tool is a letter, and is to write a letter. Because sometimes when we try to discuss with the other person face to face, we will probably get entangled in all of those emotions. So writing allows us to do many things. First of all, it allows us to stay calm and take a pause and really choose the words we want to. And that's important, because then we don't get stressed out to say the right thing at the right moment. We can take as much time as we want. We can rewrite the draft 15 times if we want. And also it allows us to really conceptualize what we've been thinking and feeling, because then you have to take what's in your head and you have to take what's in your heart and then you have to put it into words. And that takes time and that takes understanding. So this whole process is actually also not only a tool, but a way for you to progress on that reconnection spectrum. So writing a letter, staying present, and visualizing the good moments with that person. Try it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope this has been useful. It's not a complete playbook and a panacea, the perfect recipe to reconnect with someone. Relationships are messy. I understand that, but hopefully you have been hearing maybe one thing in this episode that has kind of triggered your interest and that you will try in the future. And I wish you a happy reconnection. See you in 2 weeks for another episode of the Internal Compass podcast.